Hello and welcome to the SBK Betting Podcast Masters Edition. The first major of the season is just around the corner, this Thursday, in fact, the 6th of April. And what better way to get you in the mood for Augusta's showpiece event than by previewing all the action. Before we get stuck in, now's the perfect time to tell you about SBK's fantastic new offer. New and existing customers can get £10 back in free bets if a live golfer wins at Augusta this weekend. So make sure you opt in if you want to get that offer. And T's and C's apply, as always. Right, it's time to introduce you to the panel. My name is Tom Collins, and I'm joined today by golf aficionado and tipster Bryan Nicholson. And over in the SBK studios right now, we have the office guys, Marios and Adam, or as they like to be known, the in-house experts, but you guys at home can make a judgment call on that one in due course. Bryan, welcome to the podcast. I can feel your passion when I read your betting.sbk.com columns all throughout the season. What does the Masters mean to you, and how successful have you been in past tournaments?
I don't know, as we were just saying off air there, it's kind of the most exciting year for golf bettors, I suppose. Just mainly because it's the first major, and usually that excitement kind of tones down as soon as the first ball is hit, you know what I mean? But there's all sorts of content and previews goes out, and a lot of prep goes into it, and it's funny, on the betting side of things, actually, the majors are actually probably the hardest to churn a profit because they're really high variance, low edge events in terms of, efficient odds being compiled and whatever. And obviously the odds compilers are also looking forward to this event for a long time. So the odds are kind of, they're hard to beat in majors in general, you know what I mean? So I don't think I've ever had really a kind of big win on the Masters, and nothing stands out anyway. So I don't know. It's kind of, you're just looking for small edges, maybe 4 or 5 bets, small edges, maybe look at some of the sub markets and the in play kind of stuff. There was a guy on Twitter last year actually that had I think he was using some in play first round scores, and he was, the line was set, I think it was around 70.5, but the line was set on actually the November edition that year was kind of, or in the previous year was in real soft conditions because it was moved to November, and basically the scoring was much lower. So the lines were way off, and he was just taking, I think he had about 40 match bets or something, and all around evens, and 30 of them came in literally because the line should have been, 1 or 1.5 higher. So if there's loads of angles like that you can kind of look at, and just, but in terms of the main market, it's kind of hard to beat long term. But, it's just, if you're on the right side of variance, through your life, you can be well up there.
Exactly that. And finding an edge and finding an angle in all sports betting is crucial. Horse racing, football, golf, you name it, it's the most important factor in punting. Adam, I'm guessing we're talking about a high level of success from yourself?
I don't know about that easy, but Masters has been a good thing to me.
And Marios, you're a huge sports fan, and we spoke about the build-up to competitions and different sporting events in the office a few weeks ago. And I was saying that Cheltenham Festival and the Breeders' Cup means the most to me. I feel like a kid at Christmas on the first day. And you said that the first day of the Masters was the main sporting event that sticks in your mind when it comes to excitement. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you right now?
Oh, it's at least a 10. I'll probably go 11, really. Since I think it was last July when the last putt was holed at St Andrews, you kind of look forward to the next major. And it's come around now, so very excited for Thursday and for it all to get going.
Yeah, we're all very excited, as you can tell. And before we get stuck into the protagonists for the 2023 Masters, I'm going to ask you all for your number one punting angle / favourite trend, either or, whatever one catches your imagination when it comes to betting at the Masters. And Bryan, I'm going to come to you first.
Yeah, so the biggest kind of angle that I always look at in golf betting is the course fit angle, because it's the one that's not really baked into the odds yet. It is getting more and more factored into the odds as time goes by, but it's still there's a lot of free data out there that actually covers everything. Or takes everything into account. So it's still kind of, even when you're looking at the exchange markets and that, it's it's not really factored in fully yet. So that's what I kind of look at. And then the course premiums at Augusta. So I have a model and all that takes into account course premiums, the key metrics, different variables for the course, and course suitability for players and stuff like that. So if you're looking at the the ones there at Augusta, you'd be talking about like par 5 performance, driving distance, approaches from kind of length, maybe 175 to 200 yards or 150 to 200 yards kind of range. And then short putting 4 to 8 feet, 5 to 10 feet kind of range, because there's a lot of run outs and it's hard to get close to the pin even when you're short side and try to get up and down and that. And so I'd be looking for a player, all those kind of stats, and I'd put them all into the model, and I'd be trying to kind of find a player that has a high rating in all of them. You're basically looking for just a high rating and all that, and those kind of key metrics and whatever, and you can kind of find a decent edge there. One thing, of course, you have to take the odds into account then, because a lot of the big guys will be coming out the highest in that kind of score. But if you look at like John Rahm, I think John Rahm was the highest, about 9.55. Rory's up there as well, 9.3 odd or something. Even Cam Smith, some of the live guys, 9.25. But yeah, that'd be literally the angle I'd be looking at mostly, and of course alongside progressive form, current form, progressive form, and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But the course fit is huge.
And readers of Bryan's SBK betting zone pieces throughout the year will know that he goes off his model throughout to find his selections. They're rated out of 10. So when he's talking about 8 or 9 point somethings out of 10, obviously very high scores. And if you want to see more about Bryan's model, then make sure to check out his column this week for the Masters. The office guys sure love an angle. Marios, please take it away with yours.
I've got a couple. Course form around Augusta. Always look for players that have played it at least 2 or 3 times and got some rounds under the belt. And the other one is iron play. Some people think it's a putting contest because of the greens. However, I think it's, if you can put the ball in the right spots on those greens, you've got a laser iron game, then that's what I tend to look for.
Yeah, laser iron game is something I certainly don't have. Adam is known for his self-titled weekly golf picks in the office called The List. I'm sure that'll be coming to betting.sbk.com sooner rather than later. And plenty of trends and angles go into his research week in, week out. What's your favourite trend or betting angle for this week?
Yeah, TC. I mean, I suppose the one thing I would say to caveat all of this, and I totally agree with everything sort of Bryan and Marios has said, but the weather forecast this week is going to play probably havoc with everything, and that I think that will include some of the trends. Something that I've definitely been looking pretty closely at is the 2020 renewal of the tournament, or the COVID renewal, as you might call it, which was played in November, and that definitely sort of that produces a couple of interesting angles. But I'll come back to that. For a kind of specific trend that I definitely lean on year, it's looking at those that were in contention in the previous year. So you'll get, I mean, you look at last year, Scheffler, Rory, Lowry, Cam Smith. I mean, these are players that I'm definitely looking to take on again this year, because I just don't think you can underestimate how much being in contention at Augusta will take out of a player year on year. And it's happened countless times. I think kind of since 2017, only Dustin Johnson's kind of contended and gone on to win the following year. And that was this kind of the COVID renewal. So a bit of an outlier. So that's definitely something I'll be looking at.
Very interesting. Some factors there that you should consider when you're placing your bets this week. If you guys at home have any angles that we haven't mentioned, then please, and you're watching this on YouTube, then please whack them in the comment section below, because I'll definitely be interested to hear and see those. On to the betting now, and it largely revolves around 3 players. Rory McIlroy, last year's runner-up, heads the market currently around 8-1. Defending champion Scottie Scheffler is half a point bigger at 17-2, while John Rahm is available at 11s. We're then looking at a huge jump up to Jordan Spieth at 20s, Cantlay at 22, 25-1 bar. If you like your live golfers, Cam Smith is shortest at 25-1. DJ also features reasonably high in the betting at 35-1. And it's worth noting that 18 live golfers will take on their PGA Tour rivals this week. Let's start with Rory then, Bryan. He needs to win the Masters to complete his career Grand Slam, so may feel added pressure coming into this week. How do you consider his chance, and do you believe he deserves favouritism?
Yeah, well, I don't think he'll have a better chance to get the Grand Slam than this week. So one thing actually we can just touch on there is the weather. Now, so I was checking that actually this morning, because I heard a few things around Twitter and whatever, and one thing where Rory's not good is in the wind, like high winds. He always struggles with the spin and the driving and all that kind of stuff. And but actually the wind is at the moment is kind of forecast for moderate winds, but it's rain. It's kind of consistent rain and showers and all that kind of, and thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff. But I think that will actually suit Rory. The softer conditions. All his big wins in the majors were kind of on long, soft kind of layouts. I remember Congressional was playing really soft. His wins at Quail Hollow, they were all kind of soft conditions as well, and he loves that. So that will actually help him put another kind of added angle in there too. And I was watching the women's amateur actually at Augusta there. I saw some shots of it on the weekend, and you could see it already. It was windy. The greens it was lovely, pristine, and the greens were they were running really fast, but you could see they were quite receptive. They were spinning a lot of shots, lots of backspin and all that. So you never have a better chance, I don't think, than this year to do it. So I'm looking at his stats there now, and all the stats that I was talking about earlier. He's 17th in approaches with the long irons, 175 to 200 yards. He's 4th in par 5 scoring average, and 2nd in birdies or better on the long holes. He's leading the driving distance stats by a mile. He's 326.6 is his average. I think Dustin Johnson, that's his season average. When Dustin Johnson won, he was only like 312 or something like that. Scheffler even less, even though the driving distance averages have been going up and up and up over the last few years. But so he was actually at Augusta a couple of weeks ago practicing, and he had I think he played 3 rounds, and 2 of those rounds were really low. And he has a new driver in the batter. He has the TaylorMade Plus he's using. He took a half an inch off it, and a new shaft is in there as well. And he says he's driving it absolutely brilliant, like more than or better than ever, basically. And he says he's a new putter. He's using a Scottie Cameron putter, which is similar to what he used when he won his last 2 majors. And he said while he was practicing 2 weeks ago in Augusta, he said it just gave him much more feel around the greens, and he said it just felt way better on the mallet. And so he put that into play then in the WGC match play, where he just drove it. He was driving brilliantly, basically, and he's basically got everything going for him ahead of this week's. And he's even using the TaylorMade balls as well, TP5s. I know everything you look at, just the stats, everything is pointing to Rory for me. So obviously, he's still whatever 10% chance to 15% chance, but he's the best chance in the field anyway, I think.
Would you not be put off by those practice rounds, Brian? I just wonder how much pressure Rory's putting on himself.
Yeah, well, the pressure, that's the one kind of thing. I said there was the wind, and then there's that's not going to be a factor, the wind. Obviously, the pressure, we remember what happened to him back in 2011 or 12, whenever it was, when he had the win on the lead on the 3rd round, and he just capitulated. So you never know how that's. And there was another thing, I saw a podcast there previously with Sophie Walker, and she pointed out just the live thing, the live angle as well, and he's going to be in the media a lot about that, and it might kind of take his attention away from what he's trying to achieve. But I don't know, there are those kind of factors, but a lot of that's kind of guesswork if you're just sticking to the stats and whatever and the course fit and all that kind of thing. And what I'd say is I wouldn't put anybody off at kind of 7-1 anyway. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's interesting to see how it will play out. Yeah.
And if Rory doesn't deserve to top the betting, in your opinion, at home, then maybe Scottie Scheffler does. The world number 1 shot 10 under last year to win the Masters by 3 shots. He will look to become just the 4th player in history to win back-to-back Masters, following Tiger Woods, Nick Faldo and Jack Nicklaus. He comes into this event after winning the Players' Championship, finishing 4th in the WGC match play. How big a contender is Scottie this week, Marios?
I think he's very big. He doesn't make errors. Bogey avoidance is something that he's a master of. His short game is superb. He's in winning form. I know he didn't complete the match play a couple of weeks ago, but he still showed a lot of class. He'll be tough to beat. He'd probably be my number 1 choice, given so many markets that are available. But one thing I would go back to on the Rory thing, and like Brian said, everything does point towards him, especially if it's soft. However, he hasn't contended since that 2011 meltdown. Back 9 on a Sunday is where it's at, and Rory's not been there for a long, long time. So that might go against him. And going back to Scottie, whenever he's in the mix, the last, say, 2 years, he's gone on to complete the deal. So I think he's a firm favourite for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. Scottie Scheffler doesn't seem to have that ability to just completely capitulate on the final day. He's always there and shoots a consistent round. Finally, we should mention the other market protagonist, which is Jon Rahm. Despite his rise to the top over the last few years, the Spaniard only has one major to his name. However, he's played consistently well in the Masters, racked up 4 top 10 finishes in the last 5 years. After starting this year red hot, he has missed 2 cuts in a row. Does that put you off him this week, Adam?
Yeah, it's a tough one, TC. I mean, he's obviously been in the bin for the last couple of weeks, but I'm kind of happy to draw a line through it. I just think of the 3, he's probably the one that I'd want to be with. As Bryan said, all the numbers check out. He correlates. I love the win at the Genesis. That's always a really good correlating event year on year. And I keep going back to this 2020 renewal, but I think it's really good. It's a really good sign that he performed well there, T7. And listen, I'll openly admit, I'm not sure Augusta is the best fit for his game, but it's more kind of by process of elimination. I mean, I think the pressure will get to Rory. I can't have Rory at all this week. Scheffler, I mean, he's played well this year, hasn't he? He's probably got the best course form coming in, but I just wonder how much those numbers kind of mask some semi-iffy performances, It just feels like the opposition have kind of got out of the way for him this season, and he's just kind of taken up the mantle. So yeah, it would definitely be Rahm for me of the 3, and no matter what I do this week, I'll definitely be looking to save on the Spaniard.
Yeah, just to jump in there, actually, my model it's actually 9.42 Jon Rahm, so I think he's pretty much one of the top 3 in the model. So in terms of course fit, just with the stats and what the stats are actually showing. So yeah, and I think he's had like the last 4 or 5 top 10s in the last 4 or 5 Masters. So actually, and there's a big draw trend at Augusta where right to left shot shape is kind of what you need, but not so much anymore. Since the last 3 winners are actually 3 faders, 3 power faders with the exact same kind of shot shape off the tee as Jon Rahm. So with the new equipment, you can just go up and over the corners now. And again, if it's softer conditions, that you can do that. It's a lot easier to do that because there'll be no run out on the fairway using that. And yeah, it could actually set up really well for Jon Rahm this week, I think. So there's an argument for all the 3 of them, really.
No, absolutely. And you know what? The one sort of final point I'd add is he's drifted in the market now. You can get him at 11.5, 12s, and that is a price for someone like Jon Rahm. You can't let that go. You have to get on board.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, Jon Rahm was 4-1 for an event, wasn't he?
Yeah. It can actually be a good angle in the week of the Masters, and just wait for the really big names, the really top guys, and watch the ones that drift. And just get on them. Simple as that, and just and let variance do its thing, basically.
Yeah, it's all about finding an edge, as we've already touched on. And drifters, I know people don't like them. People like to see money for their selection in all sports. Drifters do win.
Value, yeah.
Yeah, drifters win, exactly. And so there's a small overview of the market protagonists. But if I know these guys, I know they like big price players in golf tournaments. So now is the time to hear all of their bets for the 2023 Masters. And Bryan, I'm going to hand over to you first. Please, can you run through the players you'll be backing this week in the outright market?
So my main 3 would be Cam Young, Sam Burns, and Sungjae Im. I'll just start on Cam Young. So he's kind of been simmering below the radar this season until last week. Obviously at the match play, he was great, and I don't know what happened. Sam Burns was on fire in the final. 18 holes, anything can happen really. So I wouldn't think he's tired or anything like that. You know what I mean? I think a big part of his kind of resurgence is his caddy. So he's got Paul Tesori on the back now, who was Webb Simpson's caddy for forever, basically. And he's brilliant. He's brilliant kind of with the numbers and all the kind of thing that Cam may not have himself. And he's kind of a feisty competitor, Cam Young, and Paul Tesori might help him calm down and that side of things. But if you go to his stats now, Cam Young, so he's 12th in strokes gained off the tee, 17th in strokes gained approach. He's 11th in that all-important long iron, 175 to 200 yard range. He's actually second in 150 to 175, so that would be kind of the mid to lesser irons, but still, he's 15th in par 5 birdies or better, and he's 3rd over in just driving distance, full stop. So all the stats are there for Cam Young to. But he's basically standing out a mile. He doesn't have much fun. He was second at Saudi International earlier in the season, and then he had the top 10 at Bay Hill before last week. But again, he's just hitting top gear now, and I think he's going to have a very good match. He's decent price as well, so I think he's going to have a very good week.
And what about Sam Burns?
Yeah, so Sam Burns is kind of similar, kind of in the similar kind of mold. He's so he kind of just can't. He got to maybe. We could see it last week in the final. He was just hitting top gear, and he's a very streaky player. I think he has 5 wins on tour, and I think 2 of them were kind of in 2 spurts that he won those, and he tends to keep going for. When he's playing well, he tends to keep it going for a while. And in terms of the course fit rating I have here is 9.14, which isn't huge, but it's still very good. He's actually I didn't actually realize this, but he's 10th in strokes gained putting last year, and he's the same this year, or before the match play he was anyway. And I didn't actually realize that until I was looking at the stats this week for him. He's 20th in driving distance, but I actually think he's a little bit longer than that. If you go over maybe 3 or 4 years, he'd be a lower kind of average. And I was saying earlier, he's gonna the approach stats is what was letting him down this year. But if you go back to last year, he was actually 18th in that category. So that might say when he's on, when his irons are on, that's when he kind of tends to come to the fore. And yeah, so I think he's probably around 40s. He's probably my best bet in terms of value this week.
Well, you can get 50s currently on
50s
SBK,
now.
so you're getting good value there. 35 for Cam Young, and the other selection you said was Sung JM.
Yeah, Sung JM again. He's one kind of that's been under the radar this year as well. He's just a very consistent player, but he hasn't done anything outstanding this season. But he's had a runner-up finish, a tied runner-up finish at Augusta. He's another top 10 in the last 3 as well. He's kind of simmering recently in the form. He's averaging around 15th in his last 3 events. If you look at the stats again, 12th in strokes gained total, 13th tee to green, 15th off the tee. The course fit is just under 9, 8.88 in the model. An interesting stat about him is like driving distance wouldn't show you just the bare driving distance stat, but if you look at his the stats like distance, long drive stats and distance of longest drives kind of thing, and he's actually 7th in that. So, and if you look at his birdies are better on par 5s, he's 4th. So I'm kind of thinking, when I'm looking at that, I'm kind of thinking that if he wants to, he can get it out there. So in the par 5s, he just lets it go. And so he has the long drive if he wants to put it in there. So, you know what I mean? He's kind of, his putting as well, inside 15 feet, he's averaging 40th. So as I said, the guys that win at Augusta, they always have good short kind of putting stats for the week, because just getting up and down, scrambling or lag putting from the different tiers of the greens, the run outs leave you 4 to 8 feet kind of puts, and you have so many of them during the week, and you kind of need to excel in that kind of range. But again, yeah, I just think a big performance is coming from him, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it this week.
Sung JM also 50-1 right now.
Are you not worried about the putter for Cam Young, Brun?
He's kind of streaky in the putts. What have I got here? The putting this season is, I think his stats are pretty poor, all right. But that's what I noticed with him. I had him down as I would say some people see him as like a big hitter and streaky putter. So again, on the week, with the putts being so difficult, they're kind of the shorter putts at Augusta. Variance just comes into play. You know, it's hard to kind of predict just using the stats who's going to do well. I think the likes of Bryson, he really struggles with the short putts at Augusta. It's just a streaky, but if he gets it, so he's there last week. He's probably a confidence putter, Cam Young, and he could take that forward to this week. So, I know again, it remains to be seen. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. I mean, listen, the numbers are the numbers. I think the caddy could make a massive difference in that department. I love Cam this week. It's the putter's just the thing that's holding me back a bit.
Yeah, well, we say, yeah, so that's interesting you should say that, actually, because I always regarded Webb Simpson as one of the best putters in the game, but he's been slacking a little bit in that department recently as well, and maybe Paul Tesori is a big part in that, because a big part of putting is actually just reading the lines rather than the stroke itself, and who knows, maybe it was Paul Tesori that was teaching, you know, giving Webb Simpson to teach all those times. So it's just guesswork, but it's very possible, you know.
The phrase chalk one up for the good guys is used relatively often between tipsters in sports betting, but I want to chalk one up for the office guys this week. Adam, you've already touched on John Rahm, could be one of your selections. Is he your number 1 pick? And if he is, can you then tell us your number 2 and 3 pick as well, please?
You've kept that line holstered for a while, haven't you, TC? Absolutely love it. Yeah, listen, I'll definitely be... Is Rahm the number one selection? Yeah, he might be. I'll certainly be with him. There's three I like. Jordan Spieth's probably the main selection. Been chipping away with him for a couple of weeks now, and I've got to be honest. It's more of a feel thing than the numbers speaking out in his favour. Watching him week to week, the guy's got an incredible bank of course form, and it's more. It just feels like his game's in a much better place this season than it has been. I'm a bit worried about conditions, but listen, ultimately he's back in business, and it feels like he's sort of trending towards a big one. So I've got to be with him this week. Colin Morikawa's probably second on the list. He's got a few years at Augusta under his belt now, and those performances are definitely trending in the right direction. I really like him based on the fact that I think he ranks second for driving accuracy this season. Conditions are going to put a lot of focus on that, a lot of focus on laser iron players, Marios has already said. And, of those sort of group of second tier stars, as you might want to call them, around the kind of 25s mark, he's top of the list for me there. And the final selection, I'm going to take a lot of flack for this, so I'm ready. But Tommy Fleetwood, sort of three top 20 performances from 6 outings at the Masters. So the course form's there. T5 at last year's PGA, T4 at last year's Open. And I really, really liked what he did at the Valspar. And that's a tournament I generally sort of look at each year along with the Genesis as a kind of a good pointer for this. And we've already spoken on this podcast, about the importance of what you do off the tee at Augusta, and there's no shaking that. But I think that what you do around the green might be as important. I thought it was fascinating that Tiger yesterday didn't go anywhere near the tee box when he got to Augusta. He just took a wedge and a putter and went straight to the greens. And that, to me, just if that's where Tiger's head's at, then that's where my head's at. And Tommy Fleetwood is a master around the greens. He ranks second on tour this season. Listen, conditions will be in his favour, and again, it's a bit of a price thing. You can get 70s about the guy, and I think that's absolutely huge. So yeah, fire at will.
I won't disagree. It's all about the value, and he's proven in the past that he's good in the majors, the big games, a big game player. And I think he looked like he was just about to catch fire at the WGC, didn't he? He was kind of simmering. Yeah, so yeah, I'd go with that. He has the draw, it's a lovely draw shape as well as his main kind of shot shape off the tee. Like, so yeah, I wouldn't get out to you about that. No.
Tommy Fleetwood is 70-1, as you just touched on there, Adam.
Yeah, it's all about the price.
Yeah, huge price. Jon Rahm 11s, Jordan Spieth 20s, and Colin Morikawa currently, Monday morning we're filming this, he's 29-1 with SBK.
I think he's actually second in approach as well, Morikawa. Yeah, so again, if you're talking about laser irons, he's probably the best in the game, isn't he? Corey Connors and Colin Morikawa are right up there. Yeah, and
talking about best in the game, maybe we've left best in the game to last with these picks. Marios, take it away with your Masters bets, please.
Well, Brian's just touched on it a little bit there. So I'll start with the outside, and it is Corey Connors. I looked at his record, and it's very, very consistent. He's got 3 top 10s, I believe. He's coming into it with red-hot form. He's always something that I would describe that would never win, and now he's just won. I know he's won the same tournament twice. But I just think with his laser iron game, he could get it in the right spots. He's full of confidence, and at the price, it could be a good value outside. I'm finding it difficult to get away from Morikawa. If he has a hot week with the putter and his short game, which can sometimes be suspect, I think he could go very, very close. I know he's been messing around with the putter this season, and if he could put it all together, I think he would probably be my main pick. And in terms of from the top tier, I can't get away from Scheffler at all. If he's going to be the stay player, I think he's going to be very hard to beat for me. When you compare it to Rahm and Rory, if they go down the back 9 on a Sunday, I'd have my money on him.
Yeah, so Scottie Scheffler, as we've touched on, 17-2 right now. Colin Morikawa 29-1 again, and Corey Connors, who won the Valero Texas Open on Sunday 1 day ago, is 55-1 currently. For what it's worth, and I'm going to chuck my hat into the ring, despite being the fact I'm not a golf tipster by any means.
Here we go. Get ready, everyone.
If I was to back anyone in the Masters, which of course I will, it's Xander Schauffele at 28-1. He finished tied second in 2019, tied third in 2021. I thought he played pretty well at the match play as well. And as I say, despite being the voice you probably shouldn't be listening to on this podcast, I'll stick my hat in the ring with Xander Schauffele.
With Xander as well, I haven't really heard anyone mention him, which means he's going to be a big drifter probably this week. So yeah, you might be better off waiting for a few days and getting the prices and the exchanges, So again, all those kind of guys.
Being the outlier, it's what I love. I love being the outlier.
Oh no, they're all going to come in now. He's going to come in now after hearing your tips,
I doubt it.
Missed the cut last year, so he's got no chance.
Don't worry about that one. Don't worry about that. There are a lot of extra each way places being offered by rival bookmaking firms right now, but make sure to have a look at our top place prices and markets on SBK. More often than not, you'll get better value backing your players in the place markets. Bryan, we've already heard your outright selections for win purposes in the outright market. Do you have any selections in the minor markets? And one other question: if you were to pick one live golfer this week, who would you choose?
Yeah, so again, kind of like Adam was saying earlier, with the outside picks, it's not really in the data. It's just more intuitive kind of feeling. Well, there's a little bit of the data because we're going to go for Kurt Kitayama, who obviously won at Bay Hill, in windy conditions as well. And if you're looking at the stats, they're not bad. They're all kind of average. It's like 49th in approach, 44th in the 175 to 200 yard range with the irons. He's he had a good match play actually. I think he missed a cut after the when he won in Bay Hill, but he had a good match play then as well. And he's 33rd in driving distance, 33rd, and I think it's just the raw power and the approach play will kind of, and his current form. I just think the top debutant market is actually interesting. He's going to be in that, but he's got like rivals in Mito Pereira, who actually had a good event in Live just this weekend currently. Just Adrian Moronk, and that it's actually a very interesting market. It's not really out yet, but when you see it, it'll be quite interesting. So it might be something to look at for Kurt Kitayama. I'd say be at a decent price, and he's probably one of the more value selections in that. Then there's top 10, top 20, and maybe first round leader, all those kind of sub markets. I think he'd be a good addition in those. And then Minwoo Lee was kind of my other one as an outsider. He was sixth in the Players Champion in the Players. He was Scottie Scheffler, wasn't he, in the last round? And I don't know what happened to him there, but that kind of, it might stand him in good stead if he gets into that kind of position again. I remember last year in the Masters, he was actually top debutant. He was dead heat with another two guys, but he was on fire in the last round. He was 5 under 210 on his last round, and he was right up there towards the top 5 even. So his course fit is great for Augusta. Big hitter, irons, brilliant, great short game. So he's kind of on the model that I put in. His driving distance is 10 out of 10. His scrambling is 10 out of 10. Par 5 performance is 9. That's the latest stats. But again, if you go down over the last few years, it'd be a little bit higher than that. So 14th was his actual finish in the end in his debut last year. So he's another one to look at. He's probably in the 3 figures, I think, on S markets. So they'd be my 2 kind of outsiders, yeah.
Yes, Arnold Palmer Invitational winner Kurt Kitayama and Australian Minwoo Lee will be carrying Bryan's money in the minor markets. Any live golfer, Cam Smith, DJ, anyone going to contend?
Yeah, so Cam Smith is my kind of, he'd be the one I'd be looking at in the sub in terms of live markets, live golfers. But he didn't actually do too well yesterday. I think he was going all right in the event, and then he finished.
Had an absolute meltdown.
Yeah, I didn't actually. Did you see it? I don't know.
No, I just love to see it.
Yeah, so I don't know. Actually, it's interesting we should say that a lot of the guys did actually do well, like the big names. Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson was up there. Even Mito Pereira, I mentioned him earlier for the top. Another one maybe to look at in top debutant. But Patrick Reed was up there, and the only one that kind of wasn't was Cam Smith. So I was on Cam Smith, or I was thinking he might have a good one if anyone, but kind of changed my mind on that maybe now. But again, on the course fit model, he's 9.25. He's last year he added about 20 yards to his game. So he was the only guy to shoot 4 rounds in the 60s at Augusta, but that was in the softer conditions in that November year. I think he's his form is amazing around the course. And he was 2020. I don't know. I was kind of big on him, if anyone from Liv, but then seeing him yesterday, I'm not so sure anymore. So I don't know. I'll probably avoid that.
Yeah, Cam Smith could be a danger then if he returns to his form. First round leader is a market that I know the office guys love. We haven't got the market up yet, and conditions could change. So you need to be looking at the draw. But guys, who are we expecting to get off to a flying start in round one this week?
That's a good question. Shall I take it, Morris? I'll take it. So you've got to take the weather into account, right? So looking at the Thursday forecast currently, it would probably favour the morning wave. Like a lot of the rain's supposed to come in the afternoon. But again, I keep talking about it, going back to that 2020 renewal when kind of conditions might have been a bit similar, colder conditions, it massively favoured bombers. So you had Casey, DJ, Sung Jae Im were all up there. So you might want to look at similar names this year, but definitely you want to be focusing on the morning wave. I've got to chime in because Brian has absolutely stolen my thunder here. I think Kurt Kitayama for top debutant is probably, if not definitely, the bet of the week. This guy he's a serious operator. Was up at the Scottish Open last year, and I was just so impressed with the way he went about things. And he's obviously gone on to win at Bay Hill this year, which the office guys were on. You know, there were scenes on Monday. So yeah, I'll definitely be backing Quadzilla to get it done in the top debutant market.
Have you seen any markets or prices or?
Not yet.
Yeah.
A couple of days, I think.
It's an interesting. I'm just looking at some names here. So you got Tigala, Ryan Fox, Pereira, who I mentioned earlier, Moronk, Svensson, Kitayama, Tom Kim is another. Now Tom Kim is probably going to take a decent chunk of that market percentage, but I don't like him at all for Augusta. He's just not long enough. So I'm very interested to see the prices there. And I think Kitayama would probably be in the middle of the market somewhere. So I think you're going to get good value on him. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, all aboard. The other one I'd probably give a shout out to TC. I know I'm flogging the horse here, but you know, top GB in Ireland. If you fancy a Rory meltdown, which I definitely do, I think you want to side with Fleetwood here. I really, really do believe he's going to have a good week, and you know, he's going to be a price in that market. I think you definitely want to take advantage.
Yeah, finding all the value in the minor markets is the way forward. Marios, is there a live golfer that can contend this week? If so, is it Cam Smith?
I don't know whether it's Cam Smith or not. A couple of weeks ago, I was of the opinion that the live golfers wouldn't compete at all. But the closer we get to it, I think that, you know, they could easily turn up. There's a lot of class there, particularly DJ. Brooks is in form. And they'll be very determined. And that can carry you a long way. So I wouldn't rule any of them out. If I was going to pick one, I'd probably go with DJ. Just going back onto the one of the outsiders that could be placed, and he shouldn't really be an outsider, is Hideki. I can see him on
God,
Smarkets.
No.
Yeah, former winner, coming to a little bit of form. Rumours that he's injured. Beware of the injured golfer. I think Hideki knows his way around Augusta, and he could be peaking at the right time. Could be good value for a play.
Absolutely no chance.
I was watching his build-up for the match play, Hideki, and they were just showing him pre-round. And he had three of his team around him, and he was practicing putts from 5 yards. It was the weirdest setup I've ever seen. He had a tee either side of his putter. He had a coin on top of his putter, a tee pegged into the ground behind the putter, and he was still missing 5-footers right. So we'll see how Hideki gets on, but he's going to be a decent price anyway. We've covered it all, guys. We've basically listed the whole field. Thank you very much to Brian and the office guys, Marios and Adam, for joining me for this SBK Betting Podcast Masters Special. I hope you've enjoyed it at home. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please like it. Put in a comment down below who you fancy or the angle or favourite trend, as I mentioned earlier in the pod, that you like to look at ahead of the Masters. Whack your thumbs up as well. We need that thumbs up. A reminder, again, our SBK's offer. New and existing customers will get £10 back in free bets if a live golfer wins the Masters this week. Make sure you opt in. Don't forget that. Enjoy the Masters, everyone. Goodbye.